Hey, good morning and Shabbat Shalom to the 12 tribes of Israel scattered abroad and believers in Yeshua Messiah. Welcome to Hidden Manna. I am Pastor Dave, Senior Shepherd at Living Manna Church. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning, spending your Sabbath morning with us. We have a neat conversation for today, got some important stuff to share and to talk about. I hope that you're having a good Sabbath morning. I hope you've had a good week. If you haven't heard, we finally, last night, our granddaughter came into the world. She is still baby Sains for right now, but she came in at 8 pounds, 15 ounces, and we say congratulations to David and to Brittany, and that makes me a grandpa, and of course, Sister Karen, a grandma. So I just wanted to share that news with you. Kind of a great day for us here. We're celebrating. But here we are. We're at Hidden Manna. Of course, I don't do this alone. My dear brother is with me. And there he is, Brother Max. Hey, man, what's going on? Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Congratulations.
Thank
that
you.
makes me a great uncle.
A great uncle. Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Congratulations, guys. I'm so happy.
We've got neat pictures. We'll share them later on. Maybe tomorrow at service we'll share some of the pictures. But she looks beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Very
big baby. Yeah. Big baby.
Yeah. I didn't know she was that big. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just under 9 pounds. An ounce under 9 pounds. That's a big baby. So, and it looks so much like David. I saw the big pictures. It looks just like a little less hair than David had, but it looks just like David. So anyway, we're really happy for them. It's a good day for the Sains family. And so, Grandpa. Grandpa, I can't believe that.
I got to get some good grandpa jokes now in you.
All right. Well, anyway, so with that, thank you guys. I got some congratulations online. Thank you guys so much for that. We've been talking about for a little while now. We've been doing definitions, both, actually kind of both here and even on Wednesday night, because you realize that unless you have the correct definitions, unless you really, really have the correct definitions, there's no way to understand this. There's no way to fully understand all of what Yah has given to us. Because with the wrong definitions, you come up with all sorts of different ideas. The right definitions, you have to have them, especially to have a conversation with somebody. Because if you're both thinking about two different things, you're never going to have middle ground. You're never going to be able to come to a conclusion or a truth. So we talked about a whole bunch of different things. I had my list around here somewhere. Don't know what I did with it.
It's like talking to I remember I had a teacher that tried to use every big word he can use, in front of the class.
Of course.
And when he spoke, it was just like we were just all like, what?
What? But even definitions of simple words, we've gone over sin already.
Yep.
That's a huge one. If you can't come to an understanding of what sin means, you're gonna miss. And that's what we've done. We've missed the whole story. We've missed the whole story and its significance. But we went over sin. We went over righteousness. We went over the word saved or justified, right? So I thought this morning, and on our list as we're going through this, we're going to talk about holy today. The word holy, because this is another one of those really, really big words, and of course, very, very much misunderstood words.
Yeah, definitely, because
in the scriptures version, we won't see the word holy. Instead, you'll see the word set apart, separated, but that's quite literally what holy means. It means to be separated. So so that's a big, and so we can say, okay, well, the definition is to be separate. Okay, great, but the way that modern religion attempts to understand that word holy, very, very different than what the actual scriptural definition is.
And the way the church or the world describes it makes it unattainable for us.
Yeah,
because what they believe that word means, is you have to be Elohim, you have to be a heavenly being, you have to be holy, right? That whole concept of being holy is unattainable by human flesh.
Yeah. But that's, and what's crazy is that's not the definition. right?
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
what we've made it is a system of really church laws,
Mm-hmm.
denominational rules,
Mm-hmm.
uh, cultural norms, accepted norms and practices.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, what's going on in our nation, right now, you look back at our nation, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 years ago, uh, and beyond, people would say, well, this was a Christian nation with Christian morals and Christian ethics. And that would have been the definition of, well, that's why we are holy. We have
Mm.
these ethics. But as a student of history, boy, those ethics, those norms, they've all changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've all changed over time. They've all morphed into things. And now you have groups that are called churches, called denominations, that have twisted and turned and changed the definition of what holy to them means. I guess now it
Mm-hmm.
means more inclusive. If to use a word of our day, you want to be more inclusive, but it's including things that Yah has actually said we should not be involved in.
Mm.
And so there is no standard. There is no consistency from denomination to denomination. I mean, you can go to some uh, places of worship, and I've seen it, I've experienced it, where even to wear a beard, as I'm wearing a beard, you wouldn't be allowed in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that idea to them is that this is holy, or the way you dress, that men
Mm-hmm.
have to have a suit on, they have to have a
Yeah. It's like
tie.
even brother Michael Rood. Remember him saying, even in the Baptist church, if you're a Southern Baptist compared to
A Northern
a Northern,
Baptist,
it's a
right,
whole different religion, within the Baptist church.
right, or a Reformed Baptist, or yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. They're all and they all have different rules, different
Mm-hmm.
ideas of what to some holy is showing up for every service, you know,
Yep.
doing things, doing some sort of ministry within their
Mm-hmm.
local congregation. To them, that's holy. Not
Mm-hmm.
not going to a movie,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
not drinking, not going, not dancing. These
Mm-hmm.
are things, unfortunately, that people have, over time, that religion over time has put out and said, this is holy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the more that I've learned of Yah over the years, the more I realize, boy, we got to really scrap that stuff, and we got to start all over again, and
Mm-hmm.
and go by Yah's definition of what holy truly is. Listen,
That's
there
right.
are things we definitely shouldn't be doing. You know, can you not go to a movie? Of course you can go to a movie. That's just
Mm-hmm.
that's silly, of course. But what you go to see,
Yeah. What you let in that eye
what you
gate?
yeah,
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
let
You
in,
get. You still got to control.
that's got to, yeah, but that's got to be between you and Yah, and you've got to
Mm-hmm.
understand, you've got to grow. You can't just make a general statement, say, well, anybody watching over a PG-13, that's sin. Well,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
it's not. But
Mm-hmm.
and what that creates is laws and rules, and again, from the things you wear, the clothes you wear, uh, the, the time, the way you wear. I mean, there's just so many things that we've put forward as holy, and we have done a very, very poor job
Mm-hmm.
as shepherds, to use that term, as leaders, as teachers, over the last, my goodness, well, let's just take America, over the last 200 and something years of teaching Yah's people what holiness really means.
Yeah.
And again, look at our culture today. If we thought what was holy was what we were doing 40, 50 years ago, we are so far away from that today. We're in,
Yep.
in the thing we call church, in denominations, all
Mm-hmm.
the craziness that's going on, and just the craziness
Mm-hmm.
that's going on around the world. You've seen all the protests all over the all over the world. I mean, from Cuba, pray for those people.
Yep.
From
Yeah.
Cuba to France to England. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
South Africa.
Yep.
Things are crazy. Things are crazy. But that's another message, for another day. So holy. One of the first things I think that we should really start off with here this morning, just and not that we're saying, it's got to be in the New Testament for it to be true. But for many that may watch, they say, well, I want to see it in the New Testament. Of course, we know that it's not just what's written in the New Testament. If what's written in the New Testament does not coincide with everything else that was written beforehand, that's the whole idea of proper Bible interpretation. But
translation.
For those that maybe new watching and you want to see a New Testament verse for this, let me pop this up so people can see this.
And just to reiterate, remember when we were going over the Passover, when we did the Last Supper, how many discrepancies there were in each of the Gospels. So we had to go right back to the Torah, right?
Yep. Yeah, listen, that idea that maybe we can do this for another Hidden Manna, but the idea that God's word is perfect the way we have it written to us is it's not untrue. God's word is perfect. There's no doubt about it. It means what it means. But yeah, there are errors. There's no doubt there are errors. Some accidental, others intentional.
Intentional, I agree. Yeah.
But another thing for another day. But here is 1 Peter chapter 1. Verses 13 through 16. Now, this is an important verse. Of course, we're reading it out of the scriptures, so you're going to see the word set apart, but it is the word holy when you look at King James, NIV, RSV, ESV, all the rest of those. So here it is. Verse 13 says, therefore, having girded up the loins of your mind. Sorry, guys. Having girded up the loins of your mind. I thought this was off. Having girded up the loins of your mind, being sober, set your expectation perfectly upon the favor that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Yeshua Messiah. It's talking about the resurrection, right?
Yep.
But how do you look upon that perfectly? As obedient children, not conforming yourselves to the former lusts in your ignorance. Instead, the one who called you is set apart, holy, so you also should become set apart, holy in all behavior. Because it has been written, be holy, be set apart, for I am holy, I am set apart. So here it is in 1 Peter, and he is quoting these verses, and this is what he's doing. He's quoting. He's not just coming up with this. This isn't Peter just saying this, out of left field,
out of the blue. Yeah,
right. This is him quoting other scripture that emphatically tells us that we are to be holy, and then it gives the reason, because our God is holy. Our God is set apart, and God's people also need to be set apart, different from what's going on around us. The question then remains is, well, what does it actually mean to be holy? I think I might have lost you there for a second, brother. Oh, you popped back in.
Yep, back on.
All right. Well, so holy, be holy. Definitely something Peter he is not making this up. This is coming from other places. But what does it actually mean then to be holy? Because where he's quoting from is important. Because when you go back to the scriptures that he's quoting from, it defines for us what holiness actually is. Before we get there, before we go to those verses, let's take a look at Ezekiel. And let me find it here. Because what has happened today has happened in the past. There's nothing new under the sun, right? That's right. what Solomon says in Ezekiel chapter 22, and from verses. Actually, there's a whole bunch of verses. We should probably read this in context, from verse 23 all the way to 26. So we'll read just a little bit and then commentate on it. And let me scroll down a little bit. Here it is. This is Ezekiel chapter 22. This was the problem.
Start to read that for you?
Yeah, you can go for it. Go right up to verse
23, 26?
Yep, go for it.
Okay. And the word of Jehovah came to me, saying, Son of man, say to her, you are a land that is not cleansed or rained upon in the day of displeasure. There is a conspiracy of her prophets in her midst, like a roaring lion tearing the prey. They have devoured life, They have taken wealth and precious matters. They have made many widows in her midst. Her priests have done violence to my teaching. Ooh, and they profane my, there it is, set apart matters.
Holy
They have
matters.
not distinguished between the set apart and the profane, nor have they made known the difference between the unclean and the clean, and they have hidden their eyes from my Sabbaths. It's a good chapter.
Yeah.
And I am profaned in their midst.
All right.
Wow.
So we're reading more there, but let's take that just sort of the way it is. This is Ezekiel talking about what the situation was in his day, but it was the situation before his day. It was the situation after his day. It was the situation when Yeshua got here, and it is the situation now. That,
right.
And he calls it the conspiracy of her prophets.
Wow.
I mean, talk about. Those are some ominous words, right? Talk about the conspiracy of her prophets in the midst, and the conspiracy becomes this: that they have not taught God's people the right definitions. And it's not, he doesn't just deal with holy and unholy here. He also deals with clean, right? And unclean, and includes the Sabbaths. So he's telling us here, really, if this is the definition, as verse 26 says, my priests have done violence to my teachings, and they profane my set apart, my holy matters. And then he gives us a list of what these holy matters are.
What those matters are, exactly, yeah.
Right? So these are the things. This was the conspiracy. This was the problem. So we're not the only generation that has lost the concept of holy and unholy, and clean and unclean, even in Yeshua's day.
Yeah.
This was so convoluted that he calls it, a conspiracy against the conspiracy of the prophets. That's pretty powerful. But for everybody watching, I want you to recognize. Let me pop it up there one more time. I want you to recognize verse 26 is the very definition, or one of the definitions given as to what holy or set apart matters actually are. The priests have done my violence to my teaching, and they profane. This is how you profane Yah. Later on in Ezekiel, he's going to talk about how we profaned Yah among the nations. I'm just doing it off the top of my head. I'm thinking, I don't know, chapter 36 or so, like that, when he's talking about the coming of the Lord, the dry bones coming back, all of that, and how he's going to
37, yeah,
right, 37. So how he's going to do it for his name's sake. But what he says over and over and over again is that my people, when they were scattered amongst the nations, they profaned my holy name. Right? And he says, and I'm going to bring you back, and all the other stuff. But he's going to do it not just for us. He's going to do it for his holy name, for his name's sake. But the fact that he says we profaned his holy name. So that's what we're doing now. It's what we've been doing for 1,800 years now. We have been profaning his holy name, and here we find out what he actually means when he says you profane my name. It's a conspiracy. The priests
is that
have profaned,
form of taking his name in vain, right? Right from the 10 words.
To give it no value.
Right?
I see. I guess I could understand that reasoning, because
a part of it. It's a part of it, because
it's definitely a part of it.
If we claim to follow the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and our lifestyle doesn't permit and show these things, that we honor his Sabbaths, and that we don't distinguish between the unclean and clean, right?
Yeah, you're profaning his name. You're making his name void. You're making his name empty, meaningless. I think the other aspect to that one commandment that I don't think many think about, but it definitely has been true since before the days of Yeshua, how the actual name of God was removed. Right? No, Yeshua used the word Yehovah in his culture.
That's right.
But right
not
after
Adonai and
not
not
Adonai,
Hashem.
right? Not Hashem. Those some titles, traditions, and now today, across the board, 99.9% of all who believe they belong to God, love the Lord, either don't know his name or don't really call on his name,
That's right. Yeah.
Or we use generic terms: God,
Mm-hmm.
Him, Lord,
Yep.
and
Yep.
and we and I get it. Starting out, those are things that as you just begin to understand. That's how the books are written. But what we've done is we've removed His name. We made His name of no value,
No. Yeah. No effect. Yeah. Yeah.
no effect. So understanding and learning His name and coming into the understanding of what it truly means, and that's why when
Mm-hmm.
we talk about Him, we call Him Yah all the time.
Yep.
As instead of just saying God, we're
Yeah.
talking about the specific God, the God of the
That's right.
Exodus. We're talking about
That's right. And,
Yehovah.
and we all still slip because we've been, like you said, how many years
Yeah,
ingrained in this culture that it's God. God who? you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Listen, you go to India and say God, and it could be one of 100
Yeah.
different, Hindu gods. You can go to
Yep.
Pakistan and say God, and of course, it's speaking about the God of Muhammad. It's speaking about
Yep.
the Quran. You go anywhere in the world and use that generic term, and it's not separate. It's
Mm-hmm.
not. It's not
Yep.
holy.
Yeah.
It's exactly that. It's generic,
Yeah.
and
He even says in the scripture, when will they stop calling me Baal? You know.
yeah, right. And He's going to take the
Yep.
name of the Baals out of our mouths, and
Yeah.
that's what we've done. We've used these, and again, I'm not saying that it's totally, as you begin to read, that's all we've got. That's all we
Yeah.
know. I mean, that's what's there. But as you grow and you learn, you realize, oh my goodness, His name is those that call upon the name of
Mm.
Yehovah will be saved. Let's say those who call upon the generic title,
Yep. Yeah.
that's just not what it says. It says the
Mm-hmm.
name. And Yeshua tells us, I gave them your name. He
Yeah,
spoke the
and
name
that's why, just
Yehovah.
not to go off subject, but when you watch one of these award ceremonies, and these people do not serve the L of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the first thing they say is when they get their Academy Award is, "I want to thank God."
Yeah,
Who is their God?
yeah,
Remember that,
yeah.
right?
Because it's not the God I understand of
it's
in the
not,
Scripture. It's just
and they don't
not.
even try to hide that. You know that.
No, no, no. So we're a little bit off topic, but I think an important part of the conversation
Hmm.
that we got to be careful with these generic terms. I get it, we use them, but as much as I can, I try to use the word Yah. I try to use the word Elohim. I try to
Yeah.
use the word Yehovah. I try to I try to make that normal to people's hearing. Every service, every study. I still
Hmm.
use God and all the rest of that too, but try to make sure everybody understands this is who we are actually talking about. So I think
Hmm.
that's a big part of making His name void, is profaning it, but to do so makes you not separate, makes you like everything else. And so
That's right.
this whole profaning matter is really, really important. But it doesn't end there. All the way down to verse 30. And let me highlight it. I think people can see that. It says, her leaders in her midst are like wolves tearing the prey, to shed blood, to destroy lives, and to get greedy gain. Oh my goodness.
Mm.
Has it
That doesn't
changed?
sound like today, right?
Has it has not changed. Solomon
Nope.
hit it on the nail head when he said there is nothing new under the sun.
Hmm.
And her prophets have coated them with whitewash, seeing a false vision and divining a lie for them, saying, thus says the Master Yehovah, when Yehovah has not spoken. My goodness. I mean, we could probably spend
That's
all
something.
morning just on this stuff, but I don't want to get
Hmm.
into a sidetrack. But boy, is
We
this
could just did a hidden man on this chapter.
Yes, is this not? Is this? I mean, go to YouTube, go to every prophet out there. This is exactly. It's whitewashed stuff that's got nothing to do
Hmm.
with Yehovah. The people of the land have practiced oppression and committed robbery, and have wronged the poor and needy, and they oppressed the stranger without right ruling. And
Mm.
I sought for a man among them who could make a wall and stand in the breach before me on behalf of the land, that I should not destroy it, but I did not find one. This is
Wow.
this is the eventual destruction of Jerusalem he's talking about.
Hmm.
Therefore, I have poured out my displeasure on them. I have consumed them with the fire of my wrath. I have put their way on their own head, declares the Master Yehovah. So,
Mm.
how important is it for the leadership, for those who are supposed to be shepherds and all the prophets, so to speak? How important is it for them to teach what is clean and unclean, to teach what
Mm-hmm.
is holy and unholy, and to teach the observance of, and it doesn't say his Sabbath, it says his
S.
Sabbaths,
Yeah.
plural, because there's many, many, many of them, as the thing that makes us set apart matters. If this was
Mm-hmm.
so big that he destroys Jerusalem for it,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
and we are still supposed to be holy, as Peter tells us, what kind of mess are we in today?
Mm.
We are
It's
in
crazy, huh?
we're in a jam. We are in a
Yeah.
huge jam here. And this is, again, we probably could have done just a let me get that off the screen. We probably could have done just, a hidden manna just on this chapter, because there's so much there
Yeah. A
to
lot of meat
cover.
there, man.
But let's try to define some more of what it actually means to be holy. So we've got his Sabbaths, clean and unclean,
Unclean, clean.
holy and unholy. Let's get a biblical definition. One of the best places to go, and this, we're going to skip around to different things, but when Peter is quoting uh, 1 Peter chapter 1, he is actually quoting Leviticus.
Yeah. 11:45, right?
That's one of them. Let me pop it up
Yeah.
there. Leviticus and chapter 11. And here it is. And this, now, Leviticus 11 is specifically talking about the idea of food, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, which
What to
has to
eat?
do with
Yeah.
clean and unclean. And of course, verse 45 says, "For I am Yehovah, who is bringing you up out of the land of Mitzrayim, to be your Elohim, and you shall be set apart, holy, for I am holy." This is what Peter is quoting. So he's quoting a verse attached to Leviticus 11, the food laws, but this same verse is also quoted later on in Leviticus. So it has to do with clean and unclean,
Mm-hmm.
but it also has importance. And let me just take this off the screen for a second, so I don't get people dizzy as I scroll around here. In Leviticus chapter 17, and it's not just chapter 17, guys. It's chapter 17. It's chapter 18. It's chapter 19, and it's chapter 20. All of those chapters are a detailed definition of what it means to be holy. So when you read it in Peter, and he's saying, "Be holy," this is what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
These are the definitions. Don't do these things. Don't teach these things, and you're not teaching what holiness is, and you are part of the conspiracy of the prophets. Leviticus chapter 17. And it's all of the chapter. It really is a lot. We don't have time to go over all of it, but here are just a couple of highlights.
And what
Here,
verse you in, bud?
Leviticus chapter 17 and verse 10, verses
Okay.
10 and 11. This, now listen to this. And any man of the house of Israel, or of the strangers, the foreigners who sojourn among you, who eats any blood, I shall set my face against that being who eats blood, and shall cut him off from among his people.
Mm-hmm.
For the life of the flesh is in the blood. And I have given it to you upon the slaughter place, upon the altar, to make atonement for your lives. For it is the blood that makes atonement for the life. So part of this concept of being holy, set apart, is to understand the significance of blood. Now,
Yeah.
and this has to do with eating it. This has to do with clean and unclean.
Yep.
And Leviticus 17 is telling us emphatically, and it's not just in 17, it's in multiple other places.
Yeah,
First
the
of all,
life's in the blood, yeah.
the importance of blood. It's the blood of innocent animals that prepared the way, that began to teach us what the blood of Yeshua Messiah would eventually do. What the blood of animals couldn't do, the blood of Messiah could do. But blood, as a general concept, we're supposed to know the difference between it being holy and unholy. It's unholy. It's unclean to eat the blood. Why? Because that is the very essence of life that God has
That's right.
given in all of us. It's the thing
Mhm.
that keeps you alive. You know, you could lose an arm, you could lose a leg, you could lose limbs. You might even be able to get, to survive with, some organs that are missing, or you have doubles of. But
Mhm.
you lose your blood,
Yeah.
your blood is gone. You can't be replaced. That life is gone.
That's right.
And it is that source of life that is so special that we're not supposed to eat it. Now, good, you go through
Mhm.
just about every culture there is out there. There's
Oh
there's
yeah.
there's
It's
foods
the
with
total
blood.
opposite.
It's total. Blood is a huge staple across the world, and it's in every
Mhm.
culture. And yet, as you begin to understand who Yah is, you got to understand this chapter. If Yeshua is our atonement and his blood is that special, don't you think
Mm.
learning to separate that and revere that as holy, part of doing that, he's told us, is in what you eat.
That's
And
right.
that's
I've even seen like on some of those National Geographic, they show these hunters, and what they do every time they catch their first kill, they make all the people drink the blood of
yeah.
the animal.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. That's very common. Even here in the Western world, you kill a deer, you drink the warm blood of the deer. It's kind of like a rite of passage,
Hmm.
but it's unclean.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
something that Yah's people who are trying to be holy, again, holy. And I know the word perfect is used in the King James and stuff, but holy does not mean perfection, because
Hmm.
we're not perfect here, but we're trying to be separate according to
Hmm.
his guidelines, not according to our own. So chapter 17 is a big one, but then it goes right into chapter 18. And I'm sorry, there we go. Leviticus 18, and
18.
I'm going to go with verses. There's a whole bunch, but we'll start with verse 5 and 6.
Yeah. Guard my law. Yeah. Yep.
Verses.
Let me read 5.
Yeah, let me just pop it up so people can see it. Go through 5, 6, all the way to 7, actually.
Okay. Starting verse 5, it says, "And you shall guard my laws, my right rulings, which a man does and lives by them." Oh, who quotes that? Paul. "And I am Yehovah. No one is to approach anyone of his own flesh to uncover his nakedness. I am Yah. The nakedness of your father or the nakedness of your mother you do not uncover. She is your mother. You do not uncover her nakedness."
And then it goes just, in just verse after verse after verse of
Yeah,
all of
and
the
if you're not
sexual
sure
sin.
what Shem did to with oh my gosh, Noah's wife, the next verse tells you, "The nakedness of your father's wife you do not uncover; it is your father's nakedness."
Right. So this is
Not
sexual
to
sin
go
he's
down
talking
that
about.
rabbit hole, but
No,
just wanted to.
that's the proper rabbit hole, to
Yeah.
go down here, because not only is the idea of knowing the difference between blood and its
Hmm.
uses as being clean or unclean, part of being holy is also has to do with sexuality,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and not giving in to follow his right rulings, to be separate. And you'll see at the
Hmm.
end of all of this is where Peter quotes it, "Be holy for I am holy," quoting all
Yeah.
of these chapters. It's like the therefore, as you read chapter 7, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Hmm.
Therefore is the summary of it all, be holy. So this is what
Hmm.
he's talking about, being holy. And it's sexual sin. But it's
Yep.
this is some bugged out stuff he's talking about here,
Yeah. Yeah. This is
right?
yeah.
This is pretty much American culture, Western culture today.
Hmm.
Television. This is it. This is, and of course, you're right with the story of Noah and Shem. What he
Yep.
winds up doing is actually uh, um, having relations with his mother.
Yeah.
That's what it really comes down to.
Yeah.
And
That's
God is saying,
some banjo music.
well, somebody with a banjo is going to probably get ticked off at us for saying that, but
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what movie I'm talking about? Remember
oh,
that?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
But you're right. It's a movie. It's out there. It's in the
Yeah.
culture. It's today it's taught. It's put upon us as no big deal. And you're
Oh
going to
yeah,
see
yeah,
underneath all of
yeah.
this, it's going to talk about men with men, women with women,
Mm-hmm.
all the rest of
Yep.
that stuff. But here it's talking about the sexual act, of which, of course, today our culture has just kind of gone, buck wild, so to speak. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so part of being holy is listed in here, and it has to do with possessing your body sexually. It's not that God doesn't want you to be sexual creatures. We are,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. But there
Yeah.
are guidelines that he says, this is what my people will do. This is what my
Mm-hmm.
people will not do. Now, I think
Mm-hmm.
probably most within the religious world would 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 understand some of this and accept some of this, but it can't accept some of it. It's all of it,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
there's some who would say they would accept some of it, but then all sorts of things go on between the preacher and the pianist, and getting
Yeah.
together, or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
organ player and the secretary,
Uh-huh.
and my goodness, that's all part of it too. That's what he's that's
Mm-hmm.
this is,
Mm-hmm.
we're just reading the first couple of verses. It's talking about
Yep.
all sexual impurity. And then don't
Mm-hmm.
forget, I think is it Shaul in 1 Corinthians around 6 that tells us if that our body is the temple of the Spirit of God. Join
Yep.
it in sexual sin, you become part of that. And that's when he tells us that, I think it's like chapter 6, that he says, do you not know that if you destroy the temple of the living God, God will destroy you? And he's
Mm-hmm.
connecting that to sexual sin.
Yep. Yep.
So this is a big one. This is a big one. But of course, it's
And you
not
notice we
taught.
brought up movies earlier, right before, and if you notice how Hollywood has made this such a common storyline now,
I
in all
am.
these movies, right? It always goes that route where it's the mother and the stepmother and the
Yeah,
son, and
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a rebellion against what is
yep,
holy. Yeah,
God's word, yeah,
you think the enemy doesn't know this stuff? Of course he does,
that's right,
but he also
that's right,
knows the passions that are within men. It goes
that's right.
also to verse 22. I'm going to skip on down there, so and then pop it up verses 22 and 23, because this is, in fact, I'm going to go to verse 24, and let me pull this up so you guys can see it. Verse 22 says, and do not lie with a man, as with a woman. Speaking to men, not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It is an abomination. And do not have intercourse with any beast, animal, to defile yourself with it. And a woman does not stand before a beast to mate with it. It is perversion. Do not defile yourselves with all these. And so this is the end of the list, but you can read the whole list. All of it is about being holy. All of it's about being set apart.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do the things our whole culture is doing, the whole global culture is doing. He says, verse 24, do not defile yourself with all these, for by all these the nations are defiled. They are not holy,
Mm-hmm.
which I am driving out before you. So really important sort of summary verse that how we handle ourselves, even in a sexual sense, that there is an element of holiness and understanding
Mm-hmm.
how that
Yep.
applies. But it doesn't just end there. The next chapter, which is chapter 19, and let's pop this up now. Um, and again, there's a whole bunch of verses, but I'm just going to go right to the verse 1, 2, and 3. Again, it's a good summary. But here it is. You can hardly see verse 1. Sorry about that, guys. But it says, and Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, speak to all the congregation of Israel and say to them, here it is again, be set apart, be holy.
Mm-hmm.
For I am Yehovah, your Elohim, am holy. Again, this is what Peter's quoting. Verse
Yep.
3, each one of you should fear his mother and his father and guard my, here it is again, plural, Sabbaths. I
Yep.
am your Elohim. So he's continuing on with these instructions about what it means to be holy, and he's telling us right off the bat, I'm holy,
Mm-hmm.
I'm set apart. These are things you need to do to be set apart. Aside from talking about the whole thing with the parents, which is what Yeshua speaks about later on in the Gospels, about taking care of your parents as they are older, honoring them.
Yeah.
Again, verse 3 says to fear your father and mother and guard my Sabbaths, plural. Let's talk about that just for a second. So, if holiness, the way we kind of think about it today, well, I guess we really don't think about it today,
Mm-hmm.
are doing whatever church rules or denominational rules or following whatever moral or ethical rules have been set. Some of them may be in accordance with God's law. Some of them may have nothing to do with God's law.
Uh-huh.
But you know what we absolutely do not do is keep any of the Sabbaths. Now, when I say
That's right.
I mean where we've come from, what our history is. And yet this has been mentioned now twice. We just saw it in Ezekiel, and now we're seeing it here in Leviticus, and it's in multiple places. It's all
Mm-hmm.
over the place about guarding or keeping his Sabbaths. And by Sabbaths, we do not just mean to keep, the seventh day,
Yeah.
because it's much bigger than that. Now think about where
Yeah.
we are today, because when you say Sabbaths, and I'm sure most of our viewers would understand this already. Oh, somebody got a good question here. I should probably deal with before we even go any further. Um, I think it's Barbara Murphy X. That's with the whole blood thing. How does this line up with blood transfusions? About eating the blood, about
Yeah.
having the blood holy.
Life trumps. Yeah.
What you have to remember is, so long as you're not eating it, that's the
Mm-hmm.
whole idea, is that you
Yeah.
ate
You're not
the blood.
drinking it, and yeah.
Yeah, this is a medical procedure is not eating it. It's
Yeah.
not.
And
It's
if it's
not
going to preserve your life, right? It's going to save
life.
your life.
Yeah, life trumps everything. He is
Yeah.
the God of life. So yeah, so I know that there's other groups out there that that take this to a level Yah never intended. Guys, there was no blood transfusions back in the day when
Mm-hmm.
this was written, and he's telling us
Yeah.
life is in the blood. Respect it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Don't make it unholy. Don't eat it. Don't cook it. It's not something common that you should be sticking in your mouth and in your
Mm-hmm.
belly, but it is the very thing that saves our life. So I would say, the whole blood transfusion thing. I know that there are groups that get kind of twisted over that. I don't think that it applies in this
No.
particular sense.
Me either. Me either.
So I hope that the good question though, really
Yeah.
good question. So thanks for
Thank you.
that. But so here we are, Leviticus 19. He's telling us set apart. So when we say Sabbaths, here's what we're talking about. Let's name some Sabbaths.
Well,
Passover.
no, it's so funny. You even see it now in the land Sabbath. I know. I sort of think 100 years ago, most farmers still followed the 7-year, rest
Mm-hmm.
the land. But now a lot of these big companies, they don't. And one of the biggest repercussions you're seeing that our crops and are like 1/8 the nutritional value that they used to
Yeah.
be, because they're working the land so hard, they don't have any time for rest for the nutrients to rebuild. Isn't that something?
Right. And now we have the what is it called? Is it GMO? Is that the term
Yeah, the
for it?
GMOs
The
and
GMOs
yeah,
that's in all the food. We've got. Yeah, this got me upset. Do you know that they're now trying to produce from stem cells from like cows, beef,
mhm.
making artificial meat.
Yeah, yes, I've seen that.
And,
I've
and you
seen
know
that.
and you know who's the leader in all of this? Israel.
Is it? Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Israel.
yeah,
They're
yeah. I
leading
know.
this. How's that gonna fly?
Yeah,
How is that an animal that has a hoof and chews the cud?
I know.
It's
It's
a stem cell that you grew in a lab. There's going
isn't
to
that
be
crazy?
big problems. But that's the direction we're going in, because we have
Yeah,
lost the concept of what it means to be clean or unclean, to eat in a
that's
holy
right.
way, in a separate way. But Sabbaths, let's just name a couple of Sabbaths. Passover, and that's
Hmm.
a big one. Not only is Passover
Yeah,
a Sabbath, but Yah also tells us, as well as all the other Sabbaths, that these are supposed to be marks, right?
that's right.
Because if you're
His mark
holy,
on us. Yeah.
there's a mark on you. You're marked as different from everybody else. So the
Hmm.
Sabbaths are supposed to be a mark on our forehead and on our hands, according to Deuteronomy and some
Yep.
other
Shema.
places,
Yeah.
the Shema. So one Passover, a Passover is definitely one of the Sabbaths.
Yeah, his
Obviously,
feast. Yeah.
there is the seventh day Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
Right here we are today. We're Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We're different, guys. How
That's
does
right.
this make us different? Most of the religious world today that calls on Yeshua is not doing this.
Nope.
You
Nope.
are different. If you are honoring Sabbath today, you are being set apart.
Amen.
You
Yeah.
are noticeably different from what everybody else in the world is doing today. Today's the day to
That's
get
right.
caught up. Today's the day to do all your home
Oh
chores.
yeah.
Today's
Forget
the
it.
day to
Have a garage
have a
sale.
garage sale. Today's the day for the world to earn some overtime. It's
Mm-hmm.
all of those different things and listen, there is no perfect in this imperfect scattering we are amongst the nations. There's no perfect way of doing this. I get it. As you come to Yah, there's things you've got to do. You're supporting your family. They won't give you the
Mm-hmm.
Saturday off. I get it. You got to go through that. You got to pray that Yah opens up a door for you. I get all of
Mm-hmm.
that. We're just talking generally speaking.
Yeah.
What the rest of the culture thinks about Saturday, we should be thinking something different, and that should
Mm-hmm.
make you separate. Or the Sabbath, not just Saturday, but the Sabbath, that should make you separate, different. And you'll notice it because when you're different, what people ask you is, well, actually, probably the question we get most of the time is, are you Jewish? Right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but more than that,
Yeah.
why do you do that?
Yep.
Why are you
Yep.
keeping that? Because it looks different. It looks
Yeah.
separate.
Isn't that
So
something?
yeah,
Yeah.
I know we've all gotten it. I know we've all had that experience. But so
Mm-hmm.
you've got the seventh day is a Sabbath. You have all the feast days.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
started with Passover, right? But you've got from Passover to first fruits to unleavened bread. I'll
Mm-hmm.
go through all 7 of the feasts. They are Sabbaths,
That's
and
right.
which means to do them, to practice
Yeah.
them, makes you set apart,
Amen.
makes you holy. So when Peter's saying, be ye holy, all of this is implied in it. The sexual stuff we just
Yeah.
read.
Actually,
Yes, the
it's so
honor your
funny. We
father
were
and your
going
mother.
down Leviticus Road, right? When you just go right to Leviticus 23, he says, "And Yah spoke to Moshe, saying,
Let me jump there.
Speak to the
Wait,
children of Israel and say to them, These are my appointed times." And then he says that these are set apart.
What
Proclaim
verse?
them as a set apart gatherings.
What verse,
So
brother?
these are holy gatherings, and he tells you 6 days, right? The weekly Sabbath, and he goes through all the lists right through Leviticus 23.
It's Leviticus 23. What verse?
Starting in verse 1, you can just go right down.
All right, let's just read a little bit of this for everybody. So that you can actually all the way to verse 4. And let's pop this up and scroll down a hair if we could. Okay, verse 1's hard to see. It says, and Moses, and Yah spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, the appointed times of Yehovah, which you are to proclaim as set apart. There you go. Holy gatherings. My appointed times are these, and of course he goes through 6 days, 7 days of Sabbath. You do not work; it's a Sabbath in all your dwellings. These are the appointed times of Yehovah, set apart, holy gatherings,
Mm-hmm.
which you are to proclaim at the appointed times. So let's take this to where our culture is today. If we have no concept of what holiness means, we have no
Mm-hmm.
concept of what the feast days means. Instead, what we've done as a modern, not just a modern, just as the whole religious culture from 200, 300 years after 200 years after Messiah, instead of being separate with what Yah says are his holy days,
Mm-hmm.
instead we've created our own.
That's right. Yeah.
And not just
Yep.
created our own, we've taken days that have a meaning to another god,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Yep.
said, well, this is now how I'm going to worship my God through these
Exactly.
other things.
Exactly.
Which again, if you know the Torah, that is a no.
Mm-hmm.
That yes,
Yep.
explicitly Yah said, do
Nope.
not worship me the way the nations do, using
Yep.
any.
And the biggest example for all of those who know the story of the golden calf, you saw what it did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can have no idol, emblem, anything made, heaven, earth, under the sea, all of it, that you need to look at to remember who your God is, because that's what they did with
Hmm.
the golden calf. They were still
Yeah,
trying to
because
say
we were always
worship
taught,
Yah,
that they actually were worshiping,
the calf.
the calf.
Yeah,
No,
no, they were
they were
not.
using that as the god that got them out of Israel, out of Egypt. They said this is Elohim who brought us out of Egypt, right? And they said tomorrow is a feast day unto Elohim,
Tomorrow's a
but
feast day, right?
you know,
But it wasn't. You
nope.
can't make up. And this is just it. We can't make up our own holy days.
Mm-hmm.
They're holy or separated because Yah made them holy or separate.
Yeah, yeah. We saw
So,
the Northern Kingdom do that, right? Made up their
very good
own feast
example.
days and
Very good example, right? I forget his name all the time. Is it?
yeah,
I know Rehoboam and Jeroboam.
Jeroboam. Yeah.
Uh, right, makes up his own holidays, similar
Mm-hmm.
to what was going on. Different days, different
Mm-hmm.
celebrations. Guys, man, we've done exactly the same thing, and
Yep.
that is unholy. So again, in our culture, do we teach holiness? No, we don't teach. And when you do hear people, teachers, talking about, hey, listen, we need to keep the Sabbath. We need to keep the Passover. It's a big day. Again, we're in exile, so it's impossible to do the way that he's asked. I wish we could, but he
Mm-hmm.
told us there's no more worship in Jerusalem. But that doesn't mean that we don't still honor all of these days. We have to, because that's what
That's
makes
right.
us separate. And you do
Yep.
that, and what happens again to the modern religious culture around you? They look at us and they say, "What's wrong with you? Why are you
Mm-hmm.
doing that? We've been freed from all of that stuff."
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. The way I read my Bible is I've been freed from sin. I've
That's
been
right.
freed from rebellion against
Mm-hmm.
not doing all of these things. I
Yeah.
haven't been saved from these things, which is a
Yep.
very, 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 very different
Yep.
scenario.
Yep.
Let's go back to Leviticus. I want to go back to Leviticus 19 because there's more in there about being holy. And let me just bring it up a second. Leviticus 19, and I'll go down to verse 11 because this is
Mm-hmm.
just going to talk about some practical stuff uh, about holiness. Because holiness does also have to do with character, with
Mm-hmm.
who you are. It says, "Do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive one another, do not swear falsely by my name, and so profane the name of your Elohim. I am Yehovah. Do
That's
not
right.
oppress your neighbor or rob him. The wages of him who is hired is not to remain with you all night until morning." It means if you're a boss, if you're an owner, you got to pay your
Yeah.
employees. In this
Yeah.
day, you got
Especially if you got
paid
that
day after
money right
day.
in your pocket.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, so now the thing about how many are within the world of that title, that religious title, across the board, that do that lie and steal and deceive their employees, and have no problem swearing by his name. They'll have no
Mm-hmm.
problem cheating the neighbor,
Yep.
no problem holding back pay from people, and
Mm-hmm.
yet say we're holy.
That's right.
We're
And
not.
actually, above that, it even talks about farmers don't glean your your vineyard. Don't sit there and try to pick every little. He still wants to provide
Right
for
at
the
this.
homeless. The.
It's so amazing. I know you actually. I know you know this because you shared it with me at first. But that video of the guy that went to the Haredi, the Orthodox
Uh-huh.
Jews in Brooklyn, and
Yeah.
and they were using that verse about not gleaning the corners of your field
Oh yeah, for the
as the
yeah.
excuse for the long locks, the
Uh-huh.
hair. That, well, we don't glean the corners of our. That has absolutely
Nothing. Yeah.
nothing. That is just that is a conspiracy of the prophets.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Growing that long lock, that is not what Yah was talking about. That doesn't make you holy. He was talking about
Mm-hmm.
providing for the less fortunate. But
That's right. They, just like you said before, they didn't have blood transfusions. They also didn't have social services back then. How do you
true.
provide for the widow, the poor, right?
Yep. 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 So it's changed. We're not. I don't have a crop out there. I don't have a farm, but I still have a responsibility to give, to take care of
Yeah.
others, to make sure. That would be that would be making us holy. Again,
Hmm.
verse 26, and I'm going to go to verse 37. I'm going to go as far as I can. But let me pop this back up here, because more holiness. Verse 26. It says, I'm sorry, got it too high up there. Do not eat meat with the blood. Again,
Hmm.
here it is. He's kind of recapping again. Do not eat meat with the blood. Do not practice divination or magic. Man, that's a huge one.
Hmm.
That really is among
Excuse
what we
me.
call, the body of Messiah today, because there's a lot
Yep.
of that going on. There's a lot of white magic. This whole
Hmm.
God told me to tell you stuff. That's
Yeah, that's exactly
divination.
what that is. You're right.
And it's gone even worse than that. Now you've got groups, big name groups with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers, trying to soak up the spirit of some quote unquote saint who died before by laying on their grave. This is stuff that's going on among the people who say they believe. That's
Hmm.
divination. That's witchcraft.
That's right.
Name it and claim it. God must do what you say. That's witchcraft.
Hmm.
That's divination. Stay away from
Hey,
that
brother,
stuff.
can I just touch on 28 real fast too?
Go for it.
It
Let
says
me
do
let
not
me.
eat
Let,
with the blood. I know a lot of people I've seen bring up questions. You know, the steaks that we buy in the store, and there's that little bit of blood in the package. That's not
mhm.
what he's talking about. Because I know a lot of people, like Orthodox, they'll salt the meat till every little bit of blood is out. That's not what he's talking about. The when you see that little bit of red meat, and when you buy, what I'm talking about in
Right.
the package.
Yeah. So you're right. So when he says don't eat meat with the blood in it, he means the animal is killed and you don't bleed it. You don't
Yeah,
let all
it's
of the
drain.
blood. You
Yeah,
don't drain
yep,
its neck. You don't turn it upside down. And listen, most hunters, it's called dressing your meat, because you
yeah,
know that
yeah.
if the blood stays in the meat, it will spoil the meat, and
That's
then
right.
whatever diseases and everything that's how you get sick. So that's what he's saying about saying
Hmm.
is to drain it that way, because the life is in the blood. Respect it. Don't eat it. Don't drink it. Drain it.
Yep. Yeah.
And
But I
most of
just
the
wanted
red
to go
stuff
down
you
that
see.
route because I know some
No,
of
it's a
our
good.
Jewish
Good.
brothers, that's what they do. Excuse me, they'll actually, take the meat and salt it to death to get every little bit of redness out of that
Yeah.
meat. You know what I'm saying?
And use, of course, kosher salt to do it,
Yes. Yeah.
right? but
Oh
but
man,
actually, a lot of that red stuff that you see on your meats when you go to the store,
dies.
that's dye. That's not
Yeah.
blood. I know it looks like blood because it's red. That's not
Yeah.
blood.
Yep.
That's dye. That's a coloring that they put on there to make it more attractive to the eye.
Yeah. I think
So
most people who do their own natural meat would know that, right? Because they'll see the difference. Yeah.
yeah.
You're right.
Verse 27 says, "Do not do not round the corner of your head, nor destroy the corner of your beard." And what he's talking about is
The dead.
yeah, well, this is part of the worship of the dead, but it's twisting, making designs out of your beard, out of your hair. These had all were parts of worship
Yep.
in this day. So it's saying don't deface yourself in some way or change your bodily appearance as part of the mourning process for the dead.
Hmm.
He goes on to
That's right.
say, um, and do not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor put tattoo marks on you. I am Yehovah. So all of these things were things the nations did as part of their worship, as part of their mourning
Yeah.
rituals,
Yeah. You even see that with the prophets of Baal, right? With
cutting themselves.
Elijah.
Right,
Started
exactly.
cutting themselves and
And so, fast forward to that, people say, what about, tattoos and stuff today? Well, are people cutting themselves for the dead? There still are
yeah.
groups and peoples out there that do that. It's not as prevalent, of course, as it was in this day, but tattoos still mean the same thing. Why do people get them? Very, very
Yeah.
often to remember someone or some
Yeah, they'll
event where
put
people have
in
died
memory of so and so
in
on
memory
their.
of so and
Yeah,
so.
you're right.
Yeah. And it makes us no different. So how are you different? Not having those things, not doing those things, not mourning the way they would mourn. That's what he's telling us. And of course, the last one there, guard my Sabbaths and reverence my set apart place. I am Yehovah. And then he talks about mediums and spiritists and all the rest of that stuff. All of these things are being holy, being set apart. So there's so much more, we go through. Believe it or not, our hour has kind of slipped away. I can't believe that went by so fast.
Yeah, that was pretty fast.
But I just want to scan it real quick. No other questions that I see that people had. But bottom line here is that those definitions given in Ezekiel are the greatest outline. There is a conspiracy among the prophets that do not teach the difference between clean and unclean. Listen, you go to most 99.99999% of congregations and ask them what the difference is between clean and unclean, holy and unholy, and people just don't know.
No,
we just don't know. We didn't know. None of us knew. None of us knew. It's not just an indictment against them. It's an indictment of really how Satan has pulled the wool over us, and how important it is to begin to understand what these definitions mean. So when you see Peter say, be holy, and Yeshua says, be ye perfect as your Father is perfect, it's the word holy. Be separate, be perfect as he is. And so we are supposed to be holy. All right. Man, that went by really, really quick.
Yeah, that was really fast, brother.
That was fast. I'm hungry, though.
Yeah, I think I hear my wife stirring in the kitchen.
All right, guys. Let me give the last word to you, brother. What you got?
Well, just want to encourage everyone, enjoy your Sabbath, take some time, do your Torah portion. And again, I want to leave congratulations to you, Grandpa, and your family. I'm happy for you guys, and yeah, bless, man, and blessings to Brittany and Dave.
Yep. Thank you, brother. Thanks, man. God bless. Give everybody a hug and a kiss there, man.
And everyone at home, I love you guys.
Shalom, bro.
Shalom.
Okay, guys. Well, our hour is up. I hope you enjoyed the conversation today. Lots more we could have gone over, lots more examples of being holy, but basically Leviticus 17, 18, 19, 20, what was it, Ezekiel 22, those are the definitions. So when he says be holy, that's what he's talking about. And that's what we've only just discovered, as we've discovered that Yah's word, the whole volume of the book, is written about him, and we're doing our best to try to live it because we love him. So with that, guys, have a great day today. Enjoy the rest of your Sabbath. Hang out with your family. Have a great dinner, a great lunch today. Have some fun with the grandkids, children, husbands and wives. Go take a walk outside. It's beautiful here on the East Coast. Hopefully it is across the rest of the nation. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Join us again tomorrow morning, 10:45, for our weekend message. One you're not going to want to miss as we continue with the beast and the dragon. Got some great information to share with you. And of course, hang out with us each day, each morning for our morning manna. Guys, God bless. And as always, Shabbat Shalom.